Hi guys, Jesse Milestone here, and before we get started, I just want to say this video is not monetized. I'm not interested in any personal gain from this. I'm just interested in sharing some of the things I've learned in the wake of Chadwick Boseman's passing in the hopes that maybe it'll help somebody else. And you know, the title of this video right there, what did we learn? What we learned from Chadwick Boseman. I mean, the obvious things we learned, so much of his strength as a person. I mean, to show up on set with a ultimately terminal diagnosis, and you know, per all stories from everybody who knew him, show up and was always unfailingly professional, unfailingly graceful and courteous to those around him, even dealing with all of this going on in his personal life. And if you or a loved one has ever had any experience with this, you know how devastating it can be, how life altering it can be, and how all consuming it can be. So it just really is a testament to his strength of character that he was able to just go to work and do this every day. And we may or may not ever know why he chose to hide his diagnosis, but one thing is certain, is that as someone choosing not to share this, one message is absolutely clear: is you're choosing to control your legacy. You're choosing to define your legacy. You know, he's a man who did not want his legacy to be that guy who was sick. He didn't want to be defined by an intangible part of his identity that he had no control over. He didn't want to be defined by victimhood. He wanted to be defined by the choices he made in life and the work he actually contributed. And that is amazing, and it's admirable. But in death, he can continue to contribute, and his legacy can continue to continue to contribute and ultimately save more lives. Now, why do I say that? Chadwick Boseman died of colon cancer, and he died of it. It was when he was diagnosed with it. It was in its third stage, ultimately progressed to the fourth stage and claimed his life. This is very common. When you catch a later diagnosis for colon cancer, it has a very high fatality rate. It can be difficult to operate on at that point in the process, and the prognosis is usually not very good. However, if you catch colon cancer in its very early stages, or you catch polyps in the colon in the precancerous stages, it is very easy to treat. In fact, during most routine colonoscopies, minor polyps can be moved right during that procedure. You don't even have to come follow up or do anything else. They can be removed right then. They can be studied if they need to be for any signs of cancerous growth, etc. And then you're on track. Hopefully, if you've been once, hopefully you're on track to then go back. They usually recommend, I think, every 10 years for healthy people, starting when you're 50, and every 5 if you have higher risk factors. That said, there are certain communities that have higher risk than others. And the Black community in the U.S., I'm not sure about the statistics worldwide, but for sure, the Black community in the U.S. is at a much higher risk of getting colon cancer than the rest of the population. As such, it is recommended that people of the Black community start getting regular screenings for colon cancer as early as 45. Obviously, in the case of Chadwick Boseman, even that was way too late for him, which absolutely sucks. But again, there are more things we can do beyond just, go get your colonoscopy starting at 45 if you're in an at-risk group, to help create awareness for colon cancer and keep it from happening to other people. There is a lot of stigma surrounding colon cancer for a variety of reasons. One, especially amongst men, because the screening for it, it involves something going up your butt. Now, during a colon, and it's also, there's a preparation process. You got to drink all this stuff and not eat or drink anything, I think, right before you go in. And my parents have been through this, so I've heard about the joys that is the colonoscopy. For sure, it's not the most delightful thing in the world to go do. Plus, again, with heterosexual men, I think we've all experienced this at some point or another with some guy. There's a huge stigma about anything going near their buttholes. Which, sure, it's not great to have things go up in there that you don't want, that you're not looking forward to, I guess. But I mean, what's worse, 24 hours of discomfort and preparation for a procedure, or years of pain and suffering as your body slowly degrades and you die of colon cancer? But that said, the fears, the stigmas we have about it, and the fears that we have of going to the doctor and things like that, do stop people from undergoing what is, in the greater scheme of things, a relatively invasive, a relatively minor procedure that can save your life. And studies show, especially again in the Black community, even being at risk, even having a family member that has had cancer, is usually not an incentive enough for a person to go themselves until they've already started experiencing symptoms. And frequently, by the time they started experiencing some of the more severe symptoms, they're already too late in the game, right? And so that's another reason why it's so important to go. and get screened is, again, that very reason. Sometimes when by the time you realize something's actually wrong, it is too late. And that is a common thing, again, even more so in the Black community than in other communities in the United States, that when they do get tested for colon cancer, it ultimately ends up being in the later stages. And again, there's a lot of different reasons for why this is, and not all of them have to do with, people talk about, well, less access to healthcare and things like that. All things being equal, Black people are still at a higher risk. Some of it is diet related. Some of it is just genetically related. Some of it is related, if you look at other statistics in the US, Black people are less likely to go in for regular checkups than people of other races, which means when they do go in, there may be more pressing issues, more immediate issues than, some of their lower digestive upset that doesn't seem like a big deal at the time. Whereas if they were going regularly and checking into their symptoms more frequently, the doctor may suggest a colonoscopy or some form of colon scan for if that's the only thing going on with them at that time, right? So that's why, again, destigmatizing and understanding the signs and symptoms is so important, right? The other stigma that goes with colon cancer is, colon and rectal cancer. That's ass cancer. We've all made a joke about it or heard a joke about it and whatnot, right? And so it can be very difficult sometimes to have to be the person to go to your friends and say, I've got ass cancer. Because let's face it, even if you're 47 years old, it doesn't necessarily mean your friend group has matured that much since high school, So it can be really, really, it can be scary. It can be uncomfortable to want to talk about it and share it, right? Which again leads to not talking about it, not sharing it, which leads to people not hearing about it, not knowing about it, and then not realizing that certain symptoms that they write off as being minor or not that relevant could be early warning signs for this type of illness. I know this is like, the world's most boring video. Who cares? Jesse, shut up. Go back to yelling about Star Wars. But the reality is people want to run around saying things like Black Lives Matter. And guess what? They do. And they matter all of the time. Not just when a white cop is shooting them dead or when they're victims of gun violence, etc. There are plenty of things in this country that affect different races differently, including illness. And so destigmatizing colon cancer is a huge factor in making sure that we save lives. Because guess what? Marching down the street with a sign that says defund the police is not going to bring anyone back from the dead. But encouraging your loved ones to get regular colon screenings just might save their life. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Like it or don't, it really doesn't matter. I'm just here trying to do something good. So I hope this helps. I hope maybe this helps you or someone you know. And if not, cool. Either way, I hope you have a wonderful day.